Hi, I'm Josh with the Freedom Workshop. As you can see, I'm setting up a project that will come in a different video. If you're like me, you might have a high-speed mobile workbench. No, not this one. I'm talking about those two sawhorses you pull off the wall and an exquisite 4x8 piece of plywood you put on top. It worked well for a time, but let's face it, it sucks. Am I right? I thought it was time to make an actual bench and thought I might take you on the journey. So, welcome to the one where I built a workbench. But first, a toast to our sponsor, me and my family, for putting up with all this loud noise in here.
You're probably wondering what I'm doing right now. Well, I don't have a joiner, so I'm using the tape trick with a little Starbond CA glue to attach a level to the scrap pieces of wood I had lying around. It's just a shop project, so I didn't really feel I needed to go buy a bunch of new wood when I had this lying around. Using the level gives me a straight edge to use as a reference on the table saw to square them up. I thought of using the planer, but it would have taken me probably 5 times as long with how out of whack the pieces were. Son of a...
Look! Just a flesh wound.
So that fracking hurt. It took forever to stop bleeding. No clue what got me. But let's drive on. As you can see, one side is now square, and I flipped it over to square the other side. Then I'll do the same for the other two sides. Now I'll measure each post and cut them down to the correct size. And because I know there might be a comment, yes, I was wearing flip-flops. It was hot as balls out there, and I prefer them over shoes. Normally, I'm not too picky about how my wood looks when doing a shop project, as long as it does the job I want it to. I had to make an exception in this case because I hate the rounded over edges on 2x4s. So my son and I are cutting off about a 1/4 inch strip on each edge. Now I'm cutting down the supports to their final sizes. I probably don't have to say it, but I'm going to anyways. We've all been burned before. And if you're new to woodworking, this is a good piece of advice. Measure your piece twice, then cut once. Marking my posts where supports will line up, and then I start attaching them with pocket hole screws. This is what I call the honeymoon phase of my build. I'm trying to hide my screws and worry about how awesome this bench could look in the end. But as I get a bit frustrated trying to do some of this on my own, the honeymoon ends. Here I am, making more work for myself with pocket holes that I didn't need to do. Oh well, my son and I got to do the work together, so I can't complain, but he sure as heck did. I can't believe he didn't want to hang out with his cool dad instead of playing video games. I'm so much cooler than the Master Chief. God, I love Halo. I decided not to waste your time showing the crosscuts I made to those supports I just put pocket holes in. Mostly because I forgot to hit the record button. Anywho, here I am walking around realizing I'm an idiot.
See, what had happened at first was...
Remember when I drilled all those pocket holes earlier? Well, I didn't cut those boards first. So now I have supports with pocket holes on one end and nothing on the other. Time to go drill some more. I decided not to bore you with more pocket holes. If you have made it this far, you already saw it once, and unless it's your first time watching a woodworking YouTube video, you've seen it before. As an added bonus, there is a link in the description below to those space boxers you just saw a second ago. You're welcome. Until this moment editing, I had no idea how crappy this camera angle was. As I mentioned earlier, this is just a shop project, so I went a little cheaper with this 1/2-inch plywood here. Don't worry, the top will be much better looking. The home for this plywood is going to be on the bottom for some extra storage space, so I am marking where each post is and will make some cuts for a tight fit in just a moment. And I broke my GoPro screen.
Oh, tight, yeah!
Now I'll just drill a crap ton of holes, with my son following me up with the same crap ton of screws, and boom, more storage. If you happen to be limited on space like me, you can't have too much storage space. If you haven't noticed by now, there happen to be casters attached to the bottom of this thing. I was able to find these on Amazon for about $30 and they hold about 2,200 pounds. They add 4 inches to the height, so if you decide to put casters on your bench, make sure you take the added height into account. As usual, there's a link of the specific ones in the description. I am in no way sponsored by the company that produces them, nor any other company. You can choose to use the products I mentioned or not. Here's where you see I stopped worrying about whether the screws could be seen. Not using pocket hole screws where they weren't specifically needed saved me a lot of time in the end. You may notice that it's starting to get a little darker out. Unfortunately, it's due to storm clouds rolling in. I was hoping to get more done before the rain came, but that wasn't in the cards that day. My garage is about to get super cramped as I rush to get everything inside before the rain hits. As you can see, I wasn't fast enough to beat the rain. What a mess, and it is super cramped right now. I need a bigger shop. After drilling all the holes in the MDF, I went back and used the countersink bit before drilling my final screws in. Now I can finally take my table saw out of its wheelchair so it can be installed on the bench. Before I build the saw in, I need to mark where it's going to go. Then, with some snippy snips from the jigsaw, I can remove the MDF here.
So this is the new DeWalt jigsaw I got. It's the 20 volt max brushless jigsaw. I've only used it once so far, but it's by far the best jigsaw I've ever owned. Here we go.
As we finish cutting this, I'll set this piece of MDF aside for the table saw to sit on later. Notice something different this time? That's right, my friends. I'm wearing shoes instead of flip-flops. Take a good look at this cut. You can't tell, but this was yet another screw-up on my part. You thought I was gonna leave you hanging, didn't you?
I can't lie!
As you can see, I'm wearing a different shirt here, which means it was a new day. The previous day, I got fed up, pissed off, however you want to say it. Somehow my brain added exactly 2 inches to the numbers I had taken down earlier. So when I put the table saw in, it stood exactly 2 inches too high. So I was forced to take everything apart, make my cuts again, drill more pocket holes that were needed this time, and then put it back together again. My skill saw has a rack and pinion fence system, so here I am taking out the edge so I can utilize the fence. Here I'm setting up my router so I can do the same on the back side of the table saw. That Craftsman router may be old, but it has some great features. My favorite feature being I don't have to guess the speed of the router. The digital readout lets me pick my router bit and the type of material. From that info, the router chooses the speed for me. Let me get ahead of it now, because I know someone's probably going to say something. Yes, I should have wore a mask, especially working with the MDF. Why I didn't go put it on, I don't know. Good news is, it didn't kill me yet. In order to have the ability to remove the fence, I had to route out 2 separate notches on each side of the saw. Without these notches, the locking mechanism on the fence would not be able to open. Here we go again. Terrible camera position. Or maybe I just have a big head. You decide. Now I just need to put some shims under the table saw to get everything level and even. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and you were able to take at least one thing from it. See you next time.